All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tim. As you mentioned, my name is Sarah Hazard. I'm President and CEO of South Carolina Manufacturers and Commerce, and I want to welcome you to Washington Night. Each year, Washington Night brings South Carolina's business community together with federal policymakers for an evening focused on the issues coming out of Capitol Hill that impact our state's businesses and our economy. From trade agreements to infrastructure investments to tax policy and regulatory reform, what goes on in Washington, it matters. While we most certainly endeavor to cover the issues that you care about the most, those issues before Congress and before the executive branch impacting our businesses, I would be remiss if I didn't take a personal moment to remember Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Graham was indeed our champion and our friend. And I had the privilege of seeing Senator Graham as BMW, one of our great members, rolled out its new X5 model made right here in South Carolina just a few weeks before his passing. Ever present for our great corporate citizens and as warm, gracious, and quick-witted as always, Senator Graham helped make that event memorable for me and for everyone who was there in attendance. That is how I will remember Senator Graham, and that is in part why I will miss Senator Graham. He showed up. He fought for everyone he represented, and I will certainly never forget the positive impacts that he had on me. So tonight, we have a special program on tap. First, I want to thank the members of our federal delegation who are here to engage in critical conversation about issues facing the business community on which they are working in Washington on. What we hear on TV and read about in the newspaper is often defined by Washington gridlock. We know that our delegation is different. I look forward to hearing directly from them about the work that they are doing, some of it together, no doubt, to ensure families and businesses in South Carolina thrive. Before we get started, I would like to thank our sponsors who helped make Washington Night possible. Our presenting sponsor, Duke Energy, Diamond sponsors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina and Palmetto Citizens. Platinum sponsors, Dominion Energy, Koch Governmental Affairs, MUSC Health, Pinnacle plus Synovus, and Sunoco. Our gold sponsors, AT&T, the Boeing Company, Charter Communications, Farm Credit Association, Ogletree Deacons, South Carolina Student Loan Corporation, and Wells Fargo. Our beverage sponsor, Maynard Nexon. And our silver sponsors, AFL and Alliance Consulting Engineers. We are grateful to each of you, so thank you. Now, I would like to introduce our moderator for the evening. Jonathan Martin is no stranger to many of you here in South Carolina. He has covered countless races up and down the ballot in South Carolina for many years, including our presidential primaries and campaigns for governor, United States Senate, and the United States House. He has unique insight into what makes South Carolina's elected officials, both leaders nationally and here at home, not to mention colorful and newsworthy. Jonathan is the Politics Bureau Chief and Senior Political Columnist for POLITICO, where he writes a reported column. Prior to starting his column in 2022, Jonathan was a national political correspondent for the New York Times. Covering elections in all 50 states, he served as the publication's top political reporter for nearly a decade. Jonathan is the author of This Will Not Pass, Trump, Biden, and the Battle for America's Future, which spent 3 weeks on New York Times bestseller list and gave readers in the room access to the extraordinary events of the 2020 election and its aftermath. Jonathan is a contributor to NBC's Meet the Press. So please join me in welcoming and settling in, and we are going to now turn it over to Jonathan Martin. Thank you.
Thanks for that kind introduction. It's great to be back in South Carolina. It's almost football season. It's still a little hot out there, but you can smell the two-a-days in the air, can't you? What a treat. And I have no doubt at all that Shane's going to have a great turnaround year. I'm less confident in Clemson beating LSU in the opener in Baton Rouge, but we can talk about that later. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a treat to be back in South Carolina. My parents live here. They're down the road in Somerville. They're taxpayers. My brother went to the Military College of South Carolina and survived somehow for 4 years there. So this is a second home for me. Before I begin the program, I just wanted to, as they say in the Senate, use a moment of personal privilege to remember Senator Graham. A lot of people wondered when he ran for the Senate in 2002. In fact, they said it openly, if he could fill the shoes of Strom Thurmond. Of course, Strom was retiring, and 2 years later, Fritz Hollings would also retire. And South Carolina, for 40 years, had these towering figures in the Senate, legendary titans. And I think Senator Graham emphatically answered those questions. He was an enormously consequential figure, not just in Washington, but around the world. But for me, as a journalist who knew him and covered him, he was something more. He was a lot of fun. Did anybody in American politics have more fun than Lindsey Graham? I mean, he had the time of his life doing this, and nobody loved the great game of politics like Lindsey Graham. I'll just tell you one fast story. It's a fairly recent one about Senator Graham. When I was in Munich at the security conference, Mr. Wilson will appreciate this, Senator Graham loved the Munich Security Conference. John McCain and Joe Lieberman and Lindsey Graham, the three amigos, they really put the Munich Security Conference on the map every February and would always go. And sadly, Lindsey Graham was the last of the three amigos there. And this past February, I was there, and when doing one of these, fireside chats with Senator Graham, and we're backstage before the event begins. And I'm just shooting the breeze, doing some small talk with Senator Graham, and I said, where are you headed next? He said, I'm going back to Jerusalem. I'm trying to get this deal done with the Saudis and the Israelis on normalization, and trying to get some defense guarantees from Trump, and trying to get this deal done. He's always working it, right? I said some smart-ass comment like, you're going to have to pay property taxes pretty soon in Jerusalem, Senator. You're there so much in the Holy Land. And he said, you know what I want to do? He said, I want to open the first Chick-fil-A franchise in Jerusalem. But instead of being closed on Sundays, closed on Saturdays. I love that line. I mean, it's just classic Lindsey, right? Anyways, a great American and an American original. Rest in peace, Lindsey Graham. Let's begin by bringing up, speaking of foreign relations, Joe Wilson. Mr. Wilson. Good to see you. Yes, sir. A pleasure. Well, let's start with some news of the day. I'm not sure, Mr. Wilson, if you saw this, but breaking news in the last couple of hours. And I'll just read you the news alerts from two national news organizations. One says the U.S. debt load just topped $40 trillion. The other one says the U.S. national debt hit $40 trillion, a grim fiscal milestone that came amid bond market jitters. How did we get here, and how are we going to fix this?
Well, hey, even before we begin, I want to reminisce, too, about Senator Graham. He and I began together. I was the staff judge advocate for the Army Guard. He was staff judge advocate for the Air Guard. Yeah. And we were at a conference in the Holy City in near Flourtown. And
this is Charleston or Jerusalem?
The North American one, okay? And but I love to harass people in Israel that way, too. But the bottom line, we were together, and he said he'd be running for State House. And I thought, hot dig, that's fantastic. And then I realized nobody from our party had been elected in Oconee County ever, but he won.
Upstate.
And so, and then I'm also grateful, mentioning about the port. Yeah. I was grateful to be there with him for the conclusion of the deepening to 52 feet. Yeah. How significant that was in his efforts to make that possible. And then I love the pictures, okay, that you just showed, because it really was Lindsey Graham, okay, at Lizard Thicket and Boeing.
Yes.
And everything in between. Yes. So, but indeed, the national debt to me obviously is inexcusable. I really got my start in public life in the state Senate with a balanced budget. And the very first bill that I introduced when I got to Washington, which had been one that my predecessor, late Floyd Spence, introduced, was for a balanced budget amendment. And I say this sadly, that we came within one vote at a time
Right.
to have a balanced budget. But unless you mandate a balanced budget, the proclivity, obviously, of people who are elected is to see how many free things they can provide. And so I'm just very, very concerned, and indeed, every effort should be made. I'm just so grateful in the state of South Carolina that we have a balanced budget. If any way that I can help try to achieve that, and indeed, I appreciate all the efforts by President Trump with DOGE, with indeed eliminating departments. I'm grateful that indeed the Department of Education, that should be a state issue. We've had good people like Ellen Weaver run the schools, and I support local elected school boards, not the federal government, not the U.S. Department of Education. And then another effort that I was grateful to work on, and we were half successful, and that is that I worked with Governor Jim Edwards when he was named Secretary of Energy, and we actually did reduce the size of the Department of Energy by half. But still, over and over again, it's just so frustrating, but things can be done, and I look forward to working with my colleagues to try to restrain. But the debt you mentioned, how dangerous that is, particularly for our children and grandchildren.
You've established yourself in Congress as an authority when it comes to foreign policy, national security, Congressman. I wanted to ask you about the conflict with Iran. Two questions. One, is it time to end the conflict? And then secondly, what does victory look like there?
Well, to me, we need to keep pursuing and working with our allies, Israel. And that's why I was so grateful for Lindsey Graham never giving up on working with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And to me, as we're getting into this, we have to face facts. And that is, for example, I was shocked of trying to have a discussion with Hamas. You should understand that Article 7 of the Hamas Covenant of August 1988 provides to chase down every Jew behind a rock and tree till you find the last Jew and kill him. That's their ideology. And so when you say what should be the end, I personally believe there needs to be a regime change. And a way to do that is indeed encourage our Gulf allies. And President Trump has done something that he doesn't get credit for. We have greater unity among our allies from Turkey to Egypt to Saudi Arabia than we've ever had in world history. And so we need to be working together to provide for an ability for the people of Iran who proved in January that they wanted a regime change. And 45,000 of them found out that that meant that they would be slaughtered in the street. Inconceivable. And maybe it's not politically correct to say this, but I believe in regime change. That's the only thing going to change, because anything else they will back up and try to restart the nuclear program. And if they have a nuclear bomb, and I appreciate the negotiations where it was discovered that they had the potential of 11 nuclear bombs, and President Trump had the guts to immediately act based on that to destroy the capability. But what we have is a war. When we talk about end of the conflict, we've been at war for 47 years. Right. But the way to end it is to work with all of our allies, particularly Israel, to facilitate a regime change. And all of the governments now in the region, except for the Republic of Georgia in Tbilisi, all of them, every single one, are joining the dictatorship in Tehran, are very supportive of, they won't say it publicly, but regime change.
So victory clearly in Iran, in your mind, is, as Reagan used to say, we win, they lose.
That's it.
And the regime is different. Okay.
And we need to be assisting in every way the people of Iran, and all of our Gulf allies need to be also assisting however it can be. And we have a very vibrant Iranian-American community that is very dynamic, but it's not just in the United States. Iranians, millions have had to flee the country. And so there should be a way to ultimately achieve victory, and that is there must be a regime change. Anything else is just opening the door for the ultimate return of an ability to provide and develop nuclear weapons, and they will be given assistance, as we know, by the dictatorship, war criminal Putin. We know that the war criminal is providing the targeting information on American troops today. So over and over again, it's an effort that needs to be followed.
It wasn't shown in that collage of pictures, but some of you will recall this. There's those great images, speaking of Senator Graham and speaking of Munich, when he was there, he addressed what I think he said was the largest crowd he had ever spoken to in his career in politics, a group of Iranian dissidents, refugees living in Europe. Probably 200,000 people in the streets of Munich, and he spoke to, and he grabbed the flag. Remember that? He grabbed the pre-revolution Iranian flag, and he waved it, and I think that was probably the happiest hour of his life, right?
And Jonathan, it's really ironic. A year ago, almost today, I was with Senator Graham in Beirut, Lebanon. Yeah. And we were together, and and he and I were grateful to also have the opportunity to meet with President Aoun of Lebanon, and again, it's so exciting to me to see the future of Hezbollah being destroyed, and Israel is doing good work to liberate the country of Lebanon. And then I'm grateful, too, that I had the opportunity to work with the new government of Syria. I was correctly identified November a year ago by the Assad dictatorship as I was working on sanctions against Assad as an enemy of the state. And then, as it turned out, 3 weeks...
High praise.
Well, it was, and even better, he fled to Moscow 3 weeks later.
Yes.
And then 8 months later, I was actually in his office in Damascus with the new president of Syria. So over and over again, I've seen positive that maybe it doesn't get, Politico might cover it, but others don't. Okay.
But so closer to home, Congressman, we're obviously in an election season here. I don't have to tell the folks in this room about the pinch people are feeling at the gas station. You know, when you pull into the gas station and you look up and you see a 2, it's not great. When you pull up and you see a 3, when you pull up and you see a 4 is that big number, you're really starting to panic. What's the old line Harry Truman said? He said, when your neighbor's out of a job, it's a recession. When you're out of a job, it's a depression.
Yes, yes.
How do you get costs down? How do you address this affordability challenge that is obviously shaping the lives of so many Americans?
Well, hey, isn't it great that we have a president who's not conducting a war on fossil fuels, and we have a president who is working for all of the above energy successfully. We now are the leading producer of energy in the world, and then it directly affects all of us here. I had the opportunity to visit at Fort McMurray, Alberta, Canada, with the shale oil production in Canada. And it was very helpful. The tires that are used there in Canada are made in Lexington, South Carolina. And these are the mining tires. They're a really good deal, $100,000 each. And so and it was really sad when the Biden administration stopped the Keystone Pipeline. That had a direct impact back on the people of South Carolina and a reduction of the marketing capability of tires. But now we have it back. And so over and over again, I'm really so pleased. All the above energy, anything that works, let's do it. And then President Trump is leading the effort for small modular reactors, micro reactors. I represent the Savannah River site, and we have a great opportunity for small modular reactors. And there's actually been a criticality has been achieved on 2 different forms of micro and small modular reactors in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. And so progress is being made to be able to have, and Duke Energy will finally be able to do really good again.
Are there more immediate steps that can be taken this year, perhaps even before the election, to address the cost concerns of voters? For one example, would you be open to reducing or suspending the federal gas tax?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I would. Yeah. And additionally, the state tax too. Yeah. But the key thing to do is, with all the above energy, to make every effort to provide for the United States to be able to become fully energy independent. Right. And then another thing that really helped us, who would ever imagine the dictatorship in Venezuela that Maduro would be captured without a single loss of life.
Yes.
And that gives us an opportunity. I grew up, again, in the Holy City with Standard Oil in New Jersey, where we had people from Creole Petroleum Company of Venezuela visit us frequently, and it was so exciting to see the progress of Venezuela, and then it'd be frozen in socialism that doesn't work, and now they've got an opportunity to provide for oil production, and the United States has the opportunity with great leadership like Marco Rubio to be able to work with the new leadership in Venezuela that, again, can be another source of oil for the people of the United States.
How worried are you politically about the impact of these rising costs on the minds of voters as you go into the election?
Well, I'm concerned. We've got to get the message out that, indeed, you'll be asking a few minutes about the big, beautiful bill. And to me, that was a message that for a family of four, it's a benefit of around $10,000 with tax reductions. And then you put into the consequence of stopping of income tax increases. With that, I believe jobs will be created.
Let's get into a bit of the nitty-gritty of Congress, of the Hill, and talk about some of these bills. This used to be a fairly non-controversial bill. In fact, it was the most popular piece of legislation, as you recall, Congressman, which was the transportation bill, the reauthorization of the so-called highway bill, even though it's more than just highways, which now has obviously everything's polarized now, but has become polarized. Do you see a scenario where that bill gets reauthorized before the election, or is that coming in the lame duck?
I'm really hopeful. It passed the Senate 90-6. And so with that bipartisanship, I look forward to when we go back that indeed it should come up.
You mentioned the One Big Beautiful Bill, which of course is the extension last year of the original 2017 tax cut bill that President Trump passed in his first term. What are the elements of that bill that you think matter the most to voters? And has it just not gotten through to voters because it's like the old proverb about the planes that land safely at the airport don't get the attention?
Well, in fact, a dear friend of mine was Sheila Jackson Lee, who passed away last year. The good news, you don't want to hear this, but anyway, good news has no feet, bad news has wings. But
that's a good line. I'm going to steal that.
That's a good one, okay. But indeed, something I like to remind people every day, everywhere I go, no tax on tips. And then the consequence of no tax on overtime. For small businesses, that's such an incentive for persons to work overtime. And so it may not be perceived as that important, and hey, I want to give credit to a billionaire, his name is Donald Trump, that he would understand that no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, that would have such a consequence to real people.
It's just a matter of that people didn't see their tax bill go up.
Right.
And so because they would have noticed that, they didn't notice the other stuff. Is that part of the challenge?
Well, it is, and I look forward to, indeed, this year in every way as we begin to address issues, and I'm confident with the issues that we have, with the success of securing our borders from illegal aliens, to provide for the tax cuts that, as I indicated, could have a consequence to an average family of $10,000 with other benefits, and then to have the consequence, indeed, of energy independence.
Right.
And so over and over again, and also rebuilding our military for peace through strength, and we've got greater unity, to me, in the Western Hemisphere, supporting the capture of Maduro. Who would ever imagine that the Western Hemisphere is united in working with the United States? And then, as I mentioned, in the Middle East, virtually every country there now could be considered an ally of the United States. And then I'm really proud of the people. I'm the chairman of the co-chair Organization of Security and Cooperation in Europe, to see the unity in Europe. After 4 years of war, normally there would be all kinds of divisions as to whether to support the people of Ukraine. But indeed, Europe is unified. And Senator Graham was so strong in his efforts. And hey, on the day before he died, I was in touch with his office to congratulate him on getting an agreement with President Trump for having
Ukraine,
sanctions on war criminal Putin. And then, hey, that president again topped it off. He said, well, I'm for that, but hey, let's add Iran too.
Yeah.
Oh, and so that's passing, it's on the way to the House.
Let me just ask you about the politics of that for a minute, because you came of age the party of Strom Thurmond and Ronald Reagan, and obviously served with Lindsey Graham. The Republican Party, especially in South Carolina, was always so incredibly hawkish, very, internationalist, pro-military. So many veterans here, active duty for that matter too, between Fort Jackson, Shaw, and Parris Island. It does seem like there's more of an isolationist streak in the Republican Party, especially among younger folks in the party. I guess, A, why is that? And B, does that give you some pause?
Well, it does. And hey, as you mentioned Reagan, okay, I'm before that. I love when people come by the
You're
office.
a Goldwater guy. I've seen the pictures.
Okay, hey, I love to people show my book of Why Not Victory Over Communism by Barry Goldwater. Yeah. And so to me, it's really clear, peace through strength. The good news is that the most recent bill that we've had relative that would indicate isolationism was the Megabari bill. It was a bill that I had which passed the House 349 to 42. And it was to provide for fair and free elections in the Republic of Georgia. Not state of Georgia, Republic of Georgia.
Yes.
And although
so Boise, not Atlanta.
That's right, although
Yes,
maybe
right.
both.
More
But anyway,
goulash, less peaches. Yeah.
but the bottom line is that the level of isolation, it does concern me. I can't fathom that people don't understand 9/11. And with hypersonic missiles,
Right.
We're at risk every 5 seconds. But without being paranoid, the way to do it is what President Trump is doing, and that is peace through strength.
Let's get back to the Hill here in the final minutes. We have a few other issues that I think are important for folks in this room. One of them is permitting reform. I know is a near and dear topic to the heart of folks in the business community. It seems like this has been in fits and starts, that you come close to finding some kind of a deal between the two parties, but you can't quite get there. Is there a scenario in which you can get on a deal on permitting reform, at least in the lame duck session of Congress?
Jonathan, I wish it could be between the parties. That's not going to work. But what will work is Lee Zeldin is head of EPA.
Sure.
What a great person he is. And I think at one day he eliminated 67 regulations at one time. And then President Trump, I was really grateful, in his first term, had promised to remove 3 regulations for every new one. Yeah. He did 8. And then in the meantime, he's now promised 10, and I think he's achieving it. And I do regret that it can't be done by legislation, because it's executive action, and if a person of another political party comes into office, they will reinstitute every regulation known to modern man, because it's an accumulation of power with politicians, and I'm really grateful that people I work with would rather the people have the power, not the government officials.
Speaking of issues that are important for South Carolina, especially the business community here, the matter of trade. Yeah. And speaking of issues that have become a little bit different in your party, one of those is trade. Do you still call yourself a free trader? And
absolutely, yes.
That's not become a dirty word in your party?
No. Hey, I am so thrilled. I could be considered a salesman, as you noticed, for Michelin tires, and then I'm very happy to. I'm
going to check your car before we leave to make sure.
No. Hey, you'll be happy to see I've got the right tires. And then I was grateful to be there for the groundbreaking with Governor Jim Edwards. I was at the groundbreaking with Governor Campbell, for the BMW facility in Greer. And then the fun thing about that is, while we were there, they said, hey, have to change the name of Bavarian Motor Works to Bubba Motor Works.
Were you there with Calhoun too, by the way?
He's so bad.
I couldn't listen.
So disrespectful. Anyway, but hey,
if you want to know about Pitchfork Ben Tillman,
hey,
Wilson's got some stories.
Okay. Hey, just Goldwater, cool it. Okay, no, but $18.2 billion later, look, but hey, and then I am really pleased about success of Boeing. I was there when it was bought Alumni, and then I really appreciate the leadership of Lindsey Graham, Tim Scott, Trey Gowdy, the Attorney General, what's his name? Alan Wilson, with Governor Haley. We fought back.
You know what AG stands for? Almost governor.
I've heard rumors. So but to see Boeing's success, and I it's really thrilling to me to see the sales.
Have you called President Trump and reminded him that the B in BMW stands for Bavarian Motor Works?
The bottom line is, I have absolute faith in President Trump that he's very familiar with, but what a success story that is, and the success story, to be there with Secretary Scott Bessent and to be with Senator Graham for the
a son of South Carolina himself.
To be there with the expansion of Boeing, and I appreciate so much. Boeing is such a great corporate citizen as a sponsor to the Heritage Golf Classic. So over and over again, all these fit together, and I'm very grateful for the success that we have in South Carolina. I want to thank the manufacturers, the jobs you create, the opportunities you create, and I'm just very humbled to be serving. This is
just a fast Lindsay aside too, because we can't help but keep mentioning him. And you mentioned Bessent, which jogged my memory. There was this great moment in Davos earlier this year. Senator Graham and Secretary Bessent got a picture together there. Wow. And Lindsay told me afterward, he said, here's a kid from Central South Carolina and a kid from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, who grew up with not a lot. And they're here in Davos running the damn world.
Wow.
Pretty cool, right? We'll end with this, Mr. Wilson. An issue that has become explosive and has really transformed in the last year, and I don't think anything else captures the kind of populism that is shaping the age we live in, whether it's populism of the left or the right, than this issue. And that is the matter of data centers and the AI economy. A lot of states crave data centers, but there's been a voter backlash. Here's my question. How do we balance the imperative to beat China in the 21st century on AI? It's the space race of our times. We had to beat the Soviets to the moon. Well, we got to beat China to AI. We got to have AI dominance in this century. How do we balance the imperative of beating China on AI, but also being sensitive to voters at a time of rising cost who are looking around and saying, you want me to subsidize a bunch of tech billionaires for their data centers with my money and a higher power bill for an economy that's going to take my kid's job away? I don't think so. How do you balance those two?
Well, see, I look at it differently, and that is that indeed it's not going to affect the power bill. And then, as a former real estate attorney, I'm just really I'm very disappointed that as people talk about data centers, they don't talk about what the real estate tax consequence can be. I'm really hoping that particularly some of the rural counties of South Carolina will see that the extraordinary real estate taxes to back up their schools, to back up law enforcement, fire service, all of this could be a benefit. And we know that the water can be recycled. We know that indeed there can be provisions for not an increase in utility costs. And then ultimately, I'm looking forward back to microreactors and small modular reactors to have the
SMR, ability. The small nukes,
Yes.
So you're an evangelist for these data centers.
I'm very supportive, and I'm disappointed that, hey, it's been proven, okay? There are a lot of conspiracies out there, but this one's been proven that actually the Chinese Communist Party has been funding some of the opposition to
the PR efforts,
And so that indeed, as you correctly identify, as we're into competition with AI, that there's a bizarre influence of the Chinese Communist Party.
Right. We're out of time. Joe Wilson, thank you so much.
Honored. I'm grateful to be serving.
And Alan Wilson, whatever happened to Alan Wilson? Is he still involved in politics, or what's he up to these days?
Hey, the Attorney General sends his greetings. I was speaking with him earlier, but again,
that's got to be a great feeling for you.
Well, hey, indeed, to the people of South Carolina, I'm so humbled, and my wife, Roxanne, are so humble at Alan Wilson's success, and I'm just confident that he's going to be, as he ran a positive campaign, Jonathan, he will be a positive governor of South Carolina, but not take the voters for granted. And just our family is just so humbled to have the privilege and opportunity to serve the people of South Carolina.
Congratulations, Dad. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Yeah. It's
fun. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. I'm going to join next by Ralph Norman. Mr. Norman, come on up. You're the next contestant. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir. All right, Ralph Norman, how have you been, sir? You been busy recently, or what's new in your life?
Yeah, I've been sleeping a lot. I haven't been very busy.
Sleeping in, late breakfast, taking it easy.
Yeah, kind of a life of leisure.
There you go. Nothing happening with you recently. I'll start with you, Congressman, where I started with Mr. Wilson, which is this question of the soaring debt. I know it's a topic that you're passionate about as well. How do we get here, and what can be done? And is there tough medicine that has to be swallowed here by folks in D.C.? And if so, what is it?
First of all, it's an honor to be here. Thank y'all for having us. I always enjoy coming. When Sarah, I call her Say, she's from Rock Hill, calls me, I said, I'm going to come when Sarah calls. So it's an honor. And as Sarah mentioned, it's important what you do. Being in Congress is important for your trips. I was telling Fred Green earlier, y'all tell us what we don't know. It's an honor to follow Joe Wilson. Those green socks really resonated. And when I saw the film on Lindsey Graham, I went to the Munich conference. And, you're exactly right. His personality was second to none. And he went to, you can tell how somebody is when no one's watching. He went to every meeting. He just loved it. And it was a passion for his. How are we going to handle the debt? Yes, it's going to be tough medicine. I hope we don't come to the point where our bonds stop being bought. We are at that point. The interest on the debt right now is exceeding our funding for our military to over $1 trillion. And an example of that, and Joe mentioned it, the DOGE Commission. We identified probably in excess of $100 billion that we could have cut. We cut $9 billion. It boils back to putting people in office that will make the tough calls on frivolous spending. And we just hadn't been able to do that. And I use the adage, it's easy to spend other people's money.
Yeah.
And what's happened is they just haven't taken it seriously on both sides, not just one Republican.
Right.
Republican and Democrat.
Well, you've been in Washington long enough to know that the three big paydays are service on the debt, defense, and entitlements, which leads me to ask you, so where do you find the cuts, or do you raise taxes?
Well, I mean, the easy path does not work is raising taxes.
Right. You don't want to cut defense, right?
Well, when I have, and I'm a real estate developer by trade, and when my mantra has been, we're at this point in the history of this country, if we don't stop before we spend any new money, have offsets, whether it's in DOD,
right,
whether it's in transportation, all the 12 agencies can have cuts, and it's just a cascading effect. And we, to get in the House now, it's so divided. You've got one body that we're not going to get any votes anywhere from where the Democrats sit with any cuts, and you have some with the Republicans as well. But until we start doing that, anybody, any business can cut 10, 15%. Yeah. With us, it's more of an allocation that we need to cut out.
Let's say, just for argument's sake, that you happen to be in the Senate next year, and there's a deal done. President Trump's looking for a big walk-off domestic legacy, and there's a deal. And there's some folks in the Senate who say, we're going to raise the retirement age, we're going to cut spending in some agencies, including defense, and we're going to take a look at maybe making some changes in various taxes too to get some more revenue. Would you be up for signing off on that kind of a deal to address the solvency of Social Security?
Social Security is going to end. We will go on a 6-year term, as you know. In 5 years or 4, Social Security is going to be insolvent.
That's why I'm asking.
And the only way we're going to deal with that is face the fact that there's no money being saved if Congress is spending every dime. It's worthless notes. So it's going to be a combination of cutting those who should not be, are fraudulent. Waste, fraud, and abuse is real. The Social Security numbers, that you will find that are collecting payments are not many. You have those that we can cut because they're not living. It's fake. The other thing we're going to have to do is realize that we hit a brick wall, and rather than cut Social Security, the amounts, and I've heard from 20% to 25%, it's our money. We can't, so it's going to take some hard solutions, and up until now, it hasn't been talked about, like the national debt hadn't been talked about. But the hard solutions are going to be changing the way that we're spending the money.
Right.
And it's going to be taking some drastic measures to make sure that, hitting the brick wall with the Social Security is not right.
Well, it sounds like you don't want to at least be part of those conversations next year if you had an opportunity.
We have a group now that's not only going to be part of the solution, we're going to be very loud about it, along with the debt.
Well, and you're one of the Republicans that's willing to say what a lot of folks in your party aren't, which is, there are savings to be found at DOD, at the Pentagon.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no family budget that can't find that.
Speaking of the Pentagon, you said something last night at the debate which struck me. You said it's time to bring this war to an end with Iran. What does that look like?
What it looks like is, I think the president has done the right thing. We've been at war with Iran for 47 years. They've killed Americans. He took out the nuclear capability of making weapons. There is a remnant now that is still in existence that he's going to have to explain to the American people why the Straits of Hormuz aren't open, why our gas prices aren't coming down, and I think he can do that. He's got some good generals, but it's going to take a frank discussion from his generals, Raising Cane, Jack Keenan, Kellogg, and let them, I think it's time for that now. I'm tired of endless wars. Vietnam was an endless war with 55,000 dead bodies. It's time to end it, and I think he will. I think he understands that. But he's got to explain to the American people, mainly Straits of Hormuz. And when Iran says that they're going to outlast this president, that tells you something. And so, yes, that's going to have to happen sooner rather than later. The problem we have is people are in the dark on it, and we can't continue like
American voters are, you mean?
Yeah, American voters.
Yeah. Is there a way to end this war without having clarity over who controls the straits?
No.
Isn't that part of the challenge, that until there's clarity about control of the straits, the war drags on?
Well, he said America will own the Strait of Hormuz. He needs to explain, put that in real terms. How's that going to happen?
Yeah. Well, using our military assets, assumedly. Right. Nobody knows better than you, because you ran for governor recently. You're now running for the Senate. You've been on the campaign trail for a while straight now, so you've been talking to voters literally every day for some time. You've gotten an earful, I'm sure, from folks about the cost of living, and especially about the price of gas and groceries. What can you tell people about ways to bring costs down and do so in the near term?
Affordability is what I hear over and over again all over South Carolina. To have to wait till you're 42 years of age until you can afford a house. That's what our company did for a long time, build residential housing. Affordability of housing, affordability of gas. The middle class has been priced out. The farmers, that many of which are losing their farms right now, or are close to it, because they can't, the input costs exceed the price of what they're getting for the commodities. Now, what's going to be the answer to that? It starts with the gas, getting that down. It starts with regulation cuts. I can't tell you how much each one of you mean who come to Washington, and what's going to have to happen is definite examples of regulation cuts in your industry that need to be done away with. I know that in the real estate world. So it's a regulation cost that that we need to know about and act on. And the tariffs have worked. I think people like free trade, but they want reciprocal trade. They want, why would China continue to charge us and we not charge them. All that to say is we're going to have to take it step by step and to go to that business and say, how can we bring your costs down? Yeah. And I tell you, South Carolina, and I'm sure Joe sees this too, we have a flood of people coming here. If we don't get our infrastructure right, and if we don't force the legislature to major in roads, bridges, dams, airports, we're not going to be able to handle all of the incoming residents that are going to be here.
And just in the immediate term, would you be open to suspending the federal gas tax to give folks relief?
Suspending it?
Yeah.
No, I would not. I think there are other ways to do it. You're going to have on the Department of Transportation, you're going to have some experts that get involved and and I've always brought in people that know more, that are experts in their field. You're going to have bring in experts who can organize the Department of Transportation so that we know where our money is. We know you can organize it and streamline it and let somebody that has done it in the private sector. Same way with our energy costs. Yeah. We're going to have brownouts in this state. Yeah. Now, what do we deal? How do we deal with that? Well, we've got to produce the energy. We have got, with Dominion, Santee Cooper, we're going to have to find out what the problem is there.
You mentioned the importance of reciprocal trade. I'd ask you the same question I asked Mr. Wilson. Do you call yourself a free trader?
Yes.
You do still, yeah.
I do.
Okay. Let's talk about what's happening in D.C. Obviously, we're in a campaign season. The folks are gone for recess, and may not be a lot that gets done between now and the election because of the sprint toward Election Day. But give me your prognosis about the transportation bill, and is it possible to get that done before the election, or is it getting done in the lame duck?
Well, out of the 12 appropriations, we passed 3. Right. September 26th is the due date. It's
not seeming likely.
Not going to be likely. I mean, it's one of the reasons I'm running for the Senate. The Senate has been the graveyard for good bills to die. Yeah. It just stalls out. Yeah. The SAVE Act and many other bills. Yeah. No, I don't think we haven't heard it discussed. And I talked to staff, where is that bill? Because South Carolina is, we take part in that, yeah. That we have to have dollars that go to that. But no, I don't think there'll be another continuing resolution.
All right. Speaking of the Senate, what would you do if you get there and you were faced with the question of the filibuster? Would you continue the filibuster, or would you get rid of it?
I'd get rid of it.
You would? Tell me why.
I'd first get with John Thune and ask, as leader of the Senate, what can we agree on? How can we pass the SAVE Act, which if we can't pass that and we have not been able to do it, all that does is ensure that we have safe elections. Yeah. That's it. And I would try to work with him to, whether it's the walk-in filibuster, whether it's, there is a way that parliamentarian-wise to get 50, instead of 60 votes, get 51 votes, I would hope, with the vice president. And make that top priority. And if not, then do what it takes to replace whoever's stopping that. And we're going to have press conferences every week. And we've got the people now in place that can tell the American people, this is who's blocking it, this is who's for it. And we got a 53 to 47 majority. We should be able to pass it. It just hadn't been possible.
Would you oppose Thune being leader again if he's not willing to get rid of the filibuster?
Yes, if he can't get rid of the filibuster, I would tell him, in the business arena, you go with, if you got an issue with somebody, you go to them and say, how can we agree? If we can't agree, then I'm going to do what it takes to get this, in this case, the SAVE Act passed, and many others. The America First has got a list of items that we can pass, but Senate's just stalled on it. And to take a 5-week hiatus, can you do that in the private sector? No.
But finish that sentence. You said you would go to him and say, if you can't do this, what?
If you can't do it, I will work to replace you. Senator Scott was who ran against you, and I will do whatever it takes to do that. And I'm going to highlight it every week if that's what it takes.
just to be clear, Senator Scott from Florida, not Senator Scott from here in
Oh, yeah,
South Carolina. Yeah, Rick Scott.
yeah,
Rick Scott, not Tim Scott. Right, Tim Scott, wherever he is tonight, raising money probably somewhere tonight. Me. Let me ask you about the tax cut bill, the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill. You know, President Trump signed that bill, July 4th last year, which is just a little over a year. It does seem to have faded from the public consciousness. But why is that? What can you do to get that back front and center, or is that just not going to happen because folks don't care about good news necessarily?
They should care about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a $1,900 tax cut.
Yeah.
You ask that business, it likes the bonus depreciation. We've heard about the no tax on tips, the interest on American-made cars. We've heard about that. It was a great bill.
Yeah.
And I was on the budget committee. We held it out as long as we could to make it better. And you ask the businesses here in South Carolina, the bonus depreciation, the 20% pass-throughs for LLCs, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And they put more, South Carolinians are putting more money in their pocket, as they are all over the country.
You've served in the House. What can you do in the Senate, do you think, that could really have an immediate impact? Let's say you win the runoff, you win the general, you're sworn in January. If we were sitting here a year from now, looking back at the first half year of Senator Norman, what would you want to point to of stuff that you got done?
Pass the SAVE Act, number one. Two, change the rules, and hopefully we're going to keep the majority in the Senate. The runway to solve the cancer in this country cannot be done with an aspirin. I mean, the runway is short. The $40 trillion is unsustainable by any stretch of the imagination, and you can't continue that. So the Senate has been as I mentioned, been where good bills go to die.
Yeah.
Now, to get people to
and you want to go there for some reason.
Oh, yeah. If you look at where somebody can make a difference, it's that.
Yeah.
Most of them are old, a lot of them are senile, and you have to, you can't be quiet with where we are today in this country. You can't. You just can't bury it and just say, well, enough, say things is business as usual. It's not. And I feel it. I feel it here in South Carolina. I feel it when you go into the Senate. And they're big on, the parliamentarian rules, and I think you challenge the parliamentarian, if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And we have 3 to 4 solid senators that will get on board to form the nucleus to make that happen.
Would you serve more than 2 terms there?
No. I'll serve 2 terms and come home. I've signed the term limit plan, 3 terms in the House, 2 terms in the Senate. Term limits is an 80-20 issue. And I would say that, we saw what happened to Joe Biden. Now, he was cognitively not there, but there are many others that just shouldn't be there. And you ought to have term limits installed. Is it going to happen? No. I put it up every year, and it gets killed in subcommittee, in the Judiciary Committee. That's not right.
There's a word they use for that. It's called seniority in the Senate.
Yeah, it is. But, the Convention of States, I think, is something to look at to make balanced budget and get it down to 2 main items.
Yeah.
But that's a long way off. It's just the wheels turn slow from in the House, but more so in the Senate.
If you're sitting here talking to somebody from South Carolina talking about the Senate that way, I feel like if the lights go out or a fire alarm goes off, it's Senator Thurmond from beyond the grave sending us a message about seniority in the U.S. Senate. Let's talk about what I mentioned with Mr. Wilson here a minute ago, which is this issue of data centers and AI. And I'm curious how you see this, Congressman. Is the race for data centers an unalloyed good for states and their economies and vital to beating China in the 21st century? Or are these concerns about the downside of data centers real and legitimate from voters? How do you see it?
Well, Jonathan, you hit it. Is it real? Well, we're going to need to find out with the public when that data center is proposed, What does it do to the water supply?
Right.
What does it do to the electric grid?
Right.
What I would advocate for is total involvement for communities to take ownership in their communities. The diminution of value with when data centers go up with any housing or commercial developments around it, it affects it. So they need to take ownership and start and really take a stand on making them pay for their own electricity costs, no subsidies for them, and then debate and see if it makes sense for each community.
And are you bullish on getting something done on permitting reform, either this lame duck or at least next year in the new Congress?
I think in the new Congress, I know with the Senate, regulation reform, and I've put up several bills that everybody talks about it, but it's hard to get it passed. But that's where it takes those of you in the arena of the business to tell us what you need, and then we will take the steps to make it codified and make the regulations come off. We've been victims of it. I mean, the Corps of Engineers on tax credits and lands we developed to have to wait 5 years before we get a return on investment. It's, this isn't something China has a problem with. They're building, as you know, they're building nuclear plants seems like every year.
Right.
It takes us 6 to 10 years.
Right. I want to ask you one question on politics here, as somebody who could be in the Senate in 27 and 28, as there's a new campaign for president. Do you want to see Vice President Vance as the nominee, or should your party have more of an open primary in 2028?
I think you're going to have an open primary. I think you're going to have Rubio, you're going to have Vance. You're probably going to have some others that we don't even know of. Mm-hmm. On the Democrat side, you're going to have probably Newsom and some others, probably Kamala Harris. Yeah. But that's a scary thought when you look at what they've done to their states. And we're going to have, at the end of the day, I think we'll coalesce around one that will stop this, what you're seeing in other states, New York being one of them with Mondavi, what's happening in California with Newsom. I can't imagine somebody, to even put somebody up that advocates for open socialism and that have train wrecked their individual states. I don't understand how American people could fathom that, but that's what we're going to be facing.
Well, you think you'll have a competitive primary on your side?
Oh, yeah.
2028, yeah. And that will obviously come through South Carolina, so they'll all be knocking on your door and getting your cell phone number, and you'll probably have a lot of new friends.
Well, that's how it should work. It ought to be competitive, and everybody make their case.
You don't want a coronation.
No.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be a coronation.
Yeah.
They're going to have to earn it, and I think they will.
Let me just clarify one thing before we wrap here, because you were so emphatic about the war in Iran and the kind of urgency that you clearly feel. And I just want to clarify, but you think the war should end. We're talking a matter of days or weeks, months? Sort of how would you categorize it?
I would let the generals and the president tell us the step that it'll take to totally end it. He's incapacitated, from what I understand, all but about 5%. The core leadership is still in place.
But your preference would be weeks, even.
I think yes. I mean, I think the earlier we could do it. Now, if he can give a rational reason, and I think he could, as to why it's going to take longer, we're all ears, but I think the American people don't want endless wars.
Right.
I think even President Trump would admit it's taking longer.
Yes.
But
and there's not been the kind of public salesmanship necessarily of why this is so essential. Yeah.
There's nobody can sell anything as well as he could, and he can. But I think now's the time to either give an explanation and then do what it takes to end it.
Do you think he may have a change of heart about his endorsement in this race here?
We're getting ready to find out.
Folks, Ralph Norman, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you all so much. Thanks, Congressman. That was fun. Enjoy it. Yes, sir. All right. I think we're going to welcome to the stage next Nancy Mace, speaking of the Low Country. Speaking of the Citadel, too. Come on up. Already mic'd up. Hey, Congresswoman, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you as well. I'm over here. Okay.
My brother was in the India company, but I think he was there a couple of years before you.
I was maybe 3rd Battalion. They had it easy over there.
He was there in the Shannon Faulkner era, as you recall that drama there. He was
Was he
in the early
LAMC?
90s.
Was he last all-male class, 98?
No, he was 94, so
Okay.
still all guys there.
So that last generation.
Yeah, the last one.
A lot to be proud of.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. I'll start with you where I started with Mr. Wilson and Mr. Norman, and that is this news about the deficit. You're a straight talker.
Yeah.
How do we fix this? And is it going to involve tough medicine? And I'll define tough medicine. Does that mean tax increases and/or spending cuts?
The irony of the
Or
debt.
benefit cuts, benefit cuts,
Yeah,
that's
the
right.
irony of the debt and the deficit right now is that we're borrowing money from China to pay for Taiwan. I mean, seriously, that's where we are today. And it's been the fault of both Republicans and Democrats for decades now. And this started a long time ago before I ever got into politics, before any of us really got into politics. And it's been snowballing ever since. And quite frankly, I don't know that we can stop it. I think you have to take drastic measures that people in power are just not ready to do.
Like what?
Well, I mean, I've seen people in government, just the bureaucracy of government, you give one person a title and they just run away with it. They've got this fiefdom, this kingdom, this thing. All of a sudden, contracts are corrupt. We see a little bit of that here in the state with SCDOT and doing roads and that sort of thing. When roads are being built, you hear about all those things happening, the fraud that's happening. Unless you're willing to root out the fraud and just stop it and arrest people. I think this administration is the first one in a long time that's taken fraud seriously. And when we have billions of dollars of fraud, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud, that's taking money out of the market that could be spent elsewhere with real businesses, with real manufacturing, small businesses, medium and large businesses. All that takes it away from the market. I really love Scott Bessent. And if there was one person who's alive today who I think could maybe help fix us or at least guide us in the right direction, it's South Carolina's son. It's Scott Bessent. He was here about a week ago for the blessing of Lindsey Graham's, the Joint Base Graham. But I think he'd be the one to do it. Now, I'm not a market person. I don't trade. But I'm looking at the volatility of the markets. I'm looking at the amount we're borrowing from China,
Right.
the cost of war, the number of missiles that we've sent overseas and don't have anymore, the depletions. And I think it's really important that we innovate, and so the government have to stop the fraud. You just have to stop it. People have to get arrested. You got to get as much money back as you can. And we have to address the spending, and it's not just discretionary, it's the mandatory spending that has to be addressed. Like, for example, and I voted for this, but there was a bill that we did for burn pits for people in the military for certain deployments.
Right.
And it was well deserved. If you served and you come home,
Iraq,
you get paid for, you get taken care of. But it was put under mandatory spending. So they have to spend this money every year, even if it's not needed. And so, having that conversation, what's mandatory, what's discretionary,
Right.
You got to make spending cuts. But that doesn't mean that people don't get business. I think that...
Would you look at DOD cuts?
I would look at it all. And in fact, we're working through the reconciliation bill right now. And I'm looking at provisions and when it comes back or when it goes to conference, can we make sure that the big manufacturers, not just the Raytheons, that 25% of those contracts go to smaller companies? There are a lot of companies across the country and here in South Carolina, because we have a lot of DOD work, especially all over the state, but especially in Charleston in the Low Country. But a lot of AI tech is, and you all know this from a manufacturing standpoint, it is automating, making more efficient the manufacturing process. So you have these AI companies that are nimble, making missiles now. So I want 25% of that business to go to some of these small startups that, we can learn something from the Ukraine thing.
On drone technology, certainly. But real talk, Democrats don't want to cut benefits. Republicans don't want to raise taxes.
You don't have to cut benefits to fix it. I don't think that you do. I think
Okay.
you've got to cut out fraud. You've got to have... You got to have work requirements, right? You have to stop allowing people to buy Coca-Cola with SNAP. We have SNAP fraud actually here in South Carolina, hundreds of millions of dollars of fraud. We're one of the top states for SNAP fraud. I mean, our state's going to have to pay the federal government hundreds of millions of dollars if we don't fix it soon in the next couple of years. That came out of, I think, the big, beautiful bill. But it's everywhere. It's rampant. And it's incumbent upon every elected official, every leader throughout the government to address it and take care of it. But that's not what's happening, because people are like, well, I'm in power. I have this title. And so I get to, beat my chest and be this powerful guy with a title. And that guy needs to be fired.
Let me ask you about the war right now with Iran. And just curious about your view. Do you think it's time to find a way to bring the war to an end?
I do. If the next time the War Powers Act comes up, I will be signing onto it. I think it's time to come to an end. I think it's at least time, if it's going to continue, the administration has to come to Congress. With every other administration, we've given them 90 days. It's 60 to 90 days with the War Powers Resolution. We are beyond that. We're at close to 6 months. Right. I think that the administration feels it too. I think they're ready to look at it economically. If you read the media reports, we're looking at economic ways to hurt and harm Tehran. And when you look at what's still happening in Ukraine, the number of folks that are dying between Russia and Ukraine, you look at some of the testing that China's doing, because this is a moment of weakness for the West, and what China and Taiwan, what that dance is doing. I think it's a very precarious time. We have to be careful. What it's done to the Strait of Hormuz and trade, we rely on fertilizer.
Right.
That's a big thing for us, and that's affecting the Strait.
Right.
I don't want Iran to get paid a fee or a tax to ships going through the Strait of Hormuz to make money. I also don't want the U.S. giving $300 billion to Iran, and I know it's not coming from us technically,
right,
but it's coming from people we've asked for it. And I don't want South Carolina's sons and daughters going to war. This is not the war.
So what does victory look like?
Exit. I mean, it is get out.
Okay.
It's ensure we get out without ships having to pay a price to get through the Strait. That affects trade and commerce all over the world.
So find a resolution on the Straits, declare a victory, and leave.
Yeah. Get out.
Okay. I think Mr. Wilson may want to talk to
There'll
you
be
afterwards.
plenty of wars to fight in the future. This is not the only one. There's a lot going on.
You mentioned fertilizer, which obviously the cost of fertilizer, the cost of diesel. I think folks in this room certainly can grasp just how acute this is, and obviously for everybody, the cost of gas. Are there ways that we can bring down the cost of living immediately in the near term, whether it's on gas or groceries or anything else this year? And if so,
well, the
what?
state legislature could have helped seniors, for example. When I was running for governor, I talked to seniors all the time. It broke my heart, in tears, couldn't afford to live in a home they paid for their entire life, and then went into retirement, couldn't afford the property taxes on it. We had an opportunity as a state to do that. We didn't do that. We could have codified the tax cuts for folks in the big, beautiful bill. The state didn't do that. There are things that we can do as a state to improve the cost of living. Obviously, eliminating the state income tax as quickly as we can is a big help for a lot of people. Groceries are at an all-time high.
Right.
Couponing is popular again. And people are making decisions. I went carnivore for like 30 days. I stopped doing it because it was so damn expensive. It was like the meat was
the cost of beef is really
oh my God,
extraordinary.
Yeah, I loved it. I lost 4 pounds. It was great. I looked, svelte after 4 weeks, but I was like, this is not an affordable meal plan. It's just not. And so, my 2 kids are older now and going away to college, but my son was with me for the summer, and I was like, can you stop eating? Can you please? Just pause or get a job and pay for the groceries. But no, it's extraordinarily expensive. And then
Teenage boys tend to eat a lot.
Well, he also just wanted his first car. The car, both of us have trucks, and both of our transmissions broke in like 4 weeks of each other. And so I went with him to the dealership. We bought his
it's like
first
a country
car.
and western song.
Well, we just bought our first car. He bought his first car, and I'm the co-signer on it. But I mean, it was painful, and I think the insurance I'm paying. I said I'll pay the car insurance. You pay for the loan, and the insurance is more expensive than the car.
Right.
I couldn't believe it.
Right.
I had a lot of sticker shock.
Yeah, affordability is central in your life too. It sounds like.
Yeah. Well, when you got 2 kids, on their way to college, and it's a lot.
You'll go
I don't
back.
trade stocks. I don't insider trade, so I'm not a rich congressman.
You'll go back to Washington in September, and obviously you'll have a pretty short runway there before you guys leave for the rest of the midterms. But Are there bills that you'd be interested in getting done, or that you'd urge your leadership to bring up before the midterms to immediately address this cost of living challenge?
Anything that we can to do that. There are bills out there, but the problem is we've run out of time. We have Joe, we have 15 legislative days, 12 legislative days before the midterms. We just don't have a lot of time. So to get something through committee, to get it through a markup, to get it to the floor, to get it to the Senate, and everything's on hold in the Senate right now. So you can't get anything through. But if we lose the midterms, I'm blaming the Senate, because the House, Joe works his ass off on House Armed Services. We're working our asses off in the House of Representatives, and the Senate's just sitting there like, when's the next recess?
Senator Scott, sorry you're not here to get equal time to respond to that volley.
He works hard, though. Senator Scott works very hard.
That volley.
One of the few.
How concerned are you about the voters just saying, you know what, we gave you guys a shot, I'm still paying a lot more, you're out?
I think you're going to see a lot of upsets. I don't know, anybody watch the Florida election last night? There is this woman, her name is Angie, I can't remember her last name, she's a socialist, state lawmaker, and she beat Alexander Vindman, who's, I don't know, he was the lead guy for Trump's first impeachment. He fled a socialist country in Ukraine and Kiev, came to the U.S. with nothing at the age of 3. And the Democrats in Florida looked at the guy fleeing socialism to come for a better life in America and compared him to a bona fide, crazy, insane socialist, communist, really. She's nuts. He raised $16 million. She raised $1 million. And she beat the crap out of him. She stomped him last night in Florida. So Florida voters, where Trump won and Ron DeSantis won, Democrat voters nominated a commie. Same thing in Michigan. Abdul al-Sayed killed 5,000 dogs in his job before he went into politics. These are the people that they're nominating. And it's like I make jokes about it on my podcast that I'm playing around with right now. But it's serious. I mean, I try to make light of it, but it's really not funny.
Do you think that the House and the Senate are both in danger of flipping?
I do.
Yeah.
I think they're both in danger. I think the country's in danger. I think we're more at that abyss.
Because voters are just fed up and just.
Well, and I think it's both sides. So you're seeing this extremism on the left, you're seeing extremism on the right. It's both sides because Congress hasn't delivered.
Yeah.
Your elected officials, very few of them, are delivering the results that you asked for. Yeah. And that's why we're seeing this. I mean, you're seeing moderate Democrats in New York, Dan Goldman. I mean, I mean, it's been a mess. Yeah. And the president's candidates, many of them are getting through, some are not. We're seeing that play out everywhere. Yeah. It's just all over the place. And I've read a little bit about the fourth turning, and being in these crisis situations, and, you just go so far polar opposite for a while, it'll take centrists to come back somewhere in the middle, younger, more centered leaders to get us out of this crisis and chaos.
But they have to win primaries first, and that's the challenge.
They got to win primaries, but I think it's going to take a couple years.
Yeah. It does feel like people every 2 years now are throwing the party in power. I think we're a decade now in which at least one chamber of Congress or the presidency has changed hands.
Yeah, midterms are usually that's when you see the majorities become the minorities. Right. But I have to tell you, our leadership under Mike Johnson has been incredible. We have a great whip operation. We're a great majority leader, and Steve Scalise and Tom Emmer's our whip, and the Speaker, Mike Johnson. If any one of us, if Joe or I call the leadership in the House, because you guys have an amazing delegation. And by the way, if you haven't helped Jenny yet, you need to help her in her race. And I just donated, I maxed out to her the other day, but to get her elected in November. But you all have such a great delegation in South Carolina, so cohesive. They work together so well. And each and every one of us have an excellent relationship with leadership. So if I text Mike Johnson, he, boom, texts right back. He's just, it's really incredible what we have as a state. Yeah. It's really kind of magic.
Are we at the point now where even your seat could be in jeopardy?
I think so. I mean, my seat was in jeopardy. I mean, I'm the one that flipped it from Democrat to
Republican.
But
it got more Republican. It got strengthened, right, with the redraw?
By 1 point.
Yeah.
I think in this era, anything can happen. Cook Political Report went from solid Republican to then lean Republican. Yeah. Ginny Honeycutt's opponent is a 3-star admiral. Her name is Nancy. She looks good on paper. I don't know if she's raising the money. I haven't seen her speak. We'll see what the debates are like. I think Ginny will be fine, but Ginny needs the money. If you haven't given, give. Alan needs the money too. Give to him as well. But I think it's just, you can't take anything for granted these days. And
In this moment, at least, yeah.
Kamala Harris won Charleston County by 11 points. And, the district got redrawn, but it got better by 1 point. And,
In a wave year. Yeah.
If you got onto Bluffton, there's a whole socialist movement down in Bluffton, in Beaufort County. I mean, so this stuff, it's not just in California, New York.
There's socialist at Hilton Head? How is that possible?
Well, Bluffton. No, I wouldn't say Hilton Head, but it's that little town of Bluffton. There is an official, socialist political group that meets and go to his events. They protest a lot of my stuff.
I thought most of those folks had 401ks down in Bluffton. Okay. They're pretty vested in the market, I thought, Hilton Head. I want to ask you for your view on this, because I think you'll have something interesting to say, and that is this debate over data centers. And whether or not, hey, this is vital technology, we got to win the AI race in the 21st century. Or no, in fact, we're not going to subsidize these tech billionaires for this technology that may or may not be helpful and actually could undermine the job market in the next 20, 30 years. How do you see it? Is it?
Well, data centers are a national security issue. I mean, I agree with the president on that.
Okay.
But I don't think you have to take somebody's home to build a data center. There is plenty of land in the United States where we don't have to use eminent domain. We don't have to subsidize the data centers. They have plenty of money. The billionaires don't need any subsidies. China's putting them in the ocean. Elon wants to put them in space. But I don't want the mom and pop who worked their whole life to get their 1 acre, 2 acres, half an acre, their plot of land they want to live on. I don't want it stolen from the government. And the government's really good at doing that. They're really good at giving you a bad deal on your property.
Yeah.
And so, but there is legislation going through the state right now. It's like a ratepayer protection bill. And when I was running for governor, I wrote 10 amendments for the bill because it really didn't protect ratepayers at all. And, you're talking about 20 to 30, 40 jobs a site, probably imported from somewhere else. That's the puppy. I just got a puppy, and she's here with me tonight. Thanks, Noah.
What's the name of the puppy?
The name of the puppy is Millicent, and we call her Millie for short. She's a chocolate Havanese from Pendleton. She's gorgeous. I love her. But anyway, I love little dogs.
Millicent Mace. There we go.
Millicent Mace.
Okay.
But with data centers, I think that the state should take the lead of not subsidizing them. They've got to pay their own way. And when I have talked to constituents or voters all across the state, the rates are going up. And the ratepayers are paying more than they ever have. In some places, it has doubled. Like on Daniel Island, it has doubled. I mean, if you were paying $500 for your, 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom home on Daniel Island 3 years ago, you're paying $1,000 now. It's crazy where utility rates are. I know that the state's looking at SCMC, the Southeastern Energy, coalition or whatever, looking at that and joining that. There's some deregulation that would have to go on to make it all work. But at any rate, I'm not for eminent domain. I'm for a moratorium if the state could do that, to just have a strategic plan and have it make sense. We don't need to take people's land to do it. There's plenty of space elsewhere, and quite frankly, it doesn't provide enough jobs for the state of South Carolina with the growth that we're having.
Let me ask you about trade, because you've had a district that includes large Boeing facility, Boeing selling their airplanes overseas, obviously, and they make a lot of money doing it.
Create a lot of jobs.
Tell me about your view on trade. You still call yourself a free trader?
Yes, I love free trade.
Why has it become kind of out of the vogue these days in your party?
I think that's just politics, right? I mean, things come in and out of vogue, but when you have trade with other countries, if you focus on the economic factors, there's less conflict, there are less cartels, and there's less terrorism. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, there are some countries in the Middle East that want to work with the U.S. They're doing very good because they want peace in the Middle East. There was once a Tehran that was normal, that traded, that had a strong economy, that didn't make women wear burqas.
Right.
And weren't killing women for showing their hair. So there once was that, and so when you look at some of the disruption around the world, having economies and countries that were poor that are now prosperous certainly brings greater peace. And I think about it, look at Central America and South America. The cartels have found a way to grow economies of scale there. It's very scary what they've been able to accomplish because that gap was there. And if we could focus on economic measures in other countries and allow trade with other countries, and they become more prosperous and the world becomes more peaceful. And, I never served in the military, but when the Iran war broke out, I did go overseas because there was a family from Colombia who was stranded in Israel, very close to the border of Lebanon and Syria, where rockets were coming out. And they didn't have a bomb shelter. And so I went over there, helped evacuate them out of Israel into Jordan and back to the United States. And then I called the president a couple days later. He's like, what the hell are you doing in Jordan? And I was like, well, we got people here. And I asked him for a plane, and he gave me a plane 2 days later, and I rescued hundreds of families and children out of Israel during that time. But when I was there, that was when the missiles were coming over. I forget what is it called, Joe, when it's got all the little grenades in the missile when it comes out?
RPG?
No. What is it? That's very bad in war. They're using it in Ukraine.
Cluster.
Thank you.
Cluster bombs.
It's been a long
Cluster
day.
bombs.
I've been up
Cluster
since 3 a.m. with the potty training. Cluster.
Millicent, your fault.
I know. But I heard, I saw missiles overhead for the first time. I saw cluster missiles and munitions coming out for the first time, but worse than seeing it in the sky was the sound. The sound of cluster munitions in war is like standing at the gates of hell. It is the worst sound I have ever heard. And I was like, you know what? If we're going to go to war, it better damn well be worth it.
Do you think
It was scary. It was so scary, and it just gave me a much greater appreciation for what our men and women are doing in uniform.
Do you think we'll see tariffs being used as a sort of cudgel in the next administration, or you think that this is a moment that's just unique to Trump because he obviously is a believer in tariffs, or has the party changed?
I can't see in the crystal ball, but I think you can't do both. I don't think you can do tariffs and federal income tax, state income tax, all the taxes, all the fees. You can't do all of it. There was a country called the United States of America that was only funded by tariffs for hundreds of years, and It's a new phenomenon that we have the federal income tax, state income tax, all those things.
Yes.
That's all new. So I'm saying pick one. But we also know that when you reduce taxes, the economy grows. Look at the GDP growth we had last quarter, abysmal. Last year was pretty good. We had 2 quarters last year that were over 4. And so in order to take on debt and deficit, you got to grow the economy.
How much do you blame tariffs for that dismal growth, by the way?
How do I blame tariffs?
How much do you blame the tariffs for that dismal growth?
I don't know that it's all tariffs' fault. I don't think you can just blame it on tariffs.
Sure.
I think it's a lot. That goes into it. I think the war has a lot to do with it.
Sure.
And where we are with that, and the
Yes.
cost of living, and people, sort of retreating back a little bit.
Yeah.
Not as many people working.
Yep.
As well. A lot of people on welfare, and then the job growth,
And-
the lack of job growth.
And would you also, as Mr. Norman did, say that your preference would be for this war to end in a matter of weeks?
I wanted it to end yesterday.
Yeah, okay. So days.
So,
D-
yeah,
Hours.
The sooner we can get out, the sooner
Yeah,
we can track this. And I have to tell you, I was over there. I've been to the Middle East several times, and I went to Africa right after, I guess in June. But there are a lot of countries in Africa and in the Middle East that want peace. They don't want this terrorism thing.
Yeah.
And the road to peace is the road to prosperity in those countries. And they don't like radical Islam, by the way. When I went to Africa, I was really floored at the growth of radical Islam and then the Christian countries over there that want to end it.
Let's wrap with politics. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of traffic in this state the next couple of years of candidates.
Next couple of days.
Next couple of
and
days.
then next couple of days, the next couple of years of 2028 on the horizon because the Democrat primary
is coming here
is first in the South. It's first in the country.
It's first in the country. GOP is going to be first in the South again.
Yeah.
You guys will get a lot of attention and sell a lot of good barbecue. Do you want to see VP Vance get the nomination, or do you think there should be an open primary?
Open primary, always. I want to see debates. I want to see people run. I think you'll see many candidates running. If you watch, I don't bet, I don't trade stocks, but if you look at Polymarket, there are several names of people who are thinking about running, and I think those people will run. I think the door is wide open for that, as it should be. That is the American way. That's democracy.
You think Vance is the front runner right now, though?
I think Vance and Rubio are tied for front runner
yeah.
right now. I think the donor class, my sense is the donor class love Rubio.
Yes.
And then you got an element of the voter class that likes Vance.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's 50-50 between the two
Do you
of
think
them.
President Trump wants a primary, or do you think he wants to lay hands on somebody at some point?
I don't speak for the president.
Yeah.
I don't even try.
So what, and with this, what's next for you? Because you're obviously not coming back to Congress next year.
No,
So what's your plan?
I'm going to retire from politics. When I ran in 2020.
You're going to retire from politics.
Yeah, I'm not running again.
Okay.
So I said when I ran
For
for the
elected
House.
office, yeah, okay.
Yeah, when I ran for the House, I said I would serve 3 terms and then I would be done. And I have fulfilled that promise. I could have quit the governor's race and then run for re-election again for the House. I had time to do that. I didn't do that because I'm a man of my word, a woman of my word, and said, if you believe in term limits, then I think you should turn it over to somebody else. I just maxed out to Jenny. I'm helping Alan. I'm helping everybody as much as I can. And so it's time for me to go back to the private sector. And you know, in my travels and in my work, I've made great relationships over the years, and I have to be careful. I can't go sign a contract with someone right now. I can barely talk to people now about what I want to do, but metals are very interesting to me. Rare earth minerals are very interesting to me. I think, you know, the wellness space is interesting. You might see me create a couple companies. Once I get out of here, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I've always worked for myself. I've never worked for corporate. I'm very intrigued by AI and technology in the defense space. And I have a lot of contacts and relationships I've built over the years. And I still want to shitpost a little bit online, too. Just a little bit.
I'm tempted to end with Nancy Mace shitposting online, but I have to ask you, you're not going to run for office again. You said you're done with electoral politics.
I am done for...
Are you sure?
I'm done.
Okay.
I need to take a break from
Okay.
running for office. Like I need to out for a while.
Is there a?
I loved it, though.
Is
I
there
loved
a
serving.
is there a non-elected job in public life that would appeal to you? And
No.
if so, what is that?
No. I kind of want to whittle sticks for a while.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, like, you know, if I had a license in hair and makeup, I would go do that tomorrow. Like, that's what I would go do for a while. Something that's totally different and away from politics. Don't get me wrong. I love serving South Carolina. Serving South Carolina was the honor of my lifetime. I built great relationships with people back to the state, but I would like to bring business to the state.
Okay.
I've already talked to Alan about, you know, potential opportunities here in South Carolina for jobs in the metal space, in the mineral space, in the defense tech space. You know, so I would like to help my state be more prosperous than ever before. I want to be a little more prosperous. I'm a poor congressman. I'd like to
Back to
earn
that
a
carnivore diet.
I want to earn a living again, and I want to enjoy life. I want to be able to walk down the street or have my sleeves out and not have anybody like really. I don't know what the tattoo thing was a little crazy this week.
I just want to say for the record, she brought it up. I didn't go there.
But I want to be able to walk down the street in a tank top or go to the grocery store. I can't even go to the grocery store right now. And if I do go to the grocery store, I wear a platinum blonde wig so that I'm not recognized, especially if I have my kids with me. Because somehow, for whatever reason, whenever I have my children with me, that is when I get yelled at in public. Like, it's just, so I'm ready to sort of be normal, Nancy, and just get back to life. How I don't know that it'll ever be like it was.
And you're against arms control.
I think we have the right to bear arms.
Nancy Mace, folks. Thanks so much, y'all.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah.
We got to end there.
Yeah, thank you.
Can't top that.
You know, you can't top that. Thanks, babe.
I think that concludes the evening session, but I think we're going to have a cocktail reception after. Oh my God, Mr. Fry is here. I don't want to end. Russell Fry, everybody. Thank you. Russell Fry. My apologies. I'm sorry about that.
You got everyone hyped up about the bar.
The arm sort of got me
I'm
distracted
standing
there for a
between
minute.
you and the bar.
Well, the arms kind of got me distracted there too. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Fry. So I'll start with you where I began with your colleagues about this news about the deficit. How do you address this? You're coming back to the House next year. You're going to be part of some of these conversations, especially with other conservatives about addressing the deficit. What are the hard choices that you're willing to make?
I think the first thing, and we talked about this recently, but what does Russell's perfect world look like from a fiscal restraint perspective? I think you start with a balanced budget amendment. I think if you can put the guardrails on the federal government, the crazy thing, the difference between Washington and, say, Columbia at the State House is, Columbia at the State House, you sit there during budget week and you don't leave until the budget is done. You don't get out of your chair. The speaker can call you back if you decide to skip town for a little bit. And you can't pass the budget to the Senate until it's certified by the BEA that it's in balance. And so we got to kind of get back to that. If you have the guardrails, I think that's a start. But the other thing is, look, the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, estimates that $500 billion walks out of the U.S. Treasury every year. Think about that. How many years, I see Randy Ligon in the back over here, how many years could you fund the state of South Carolina with $500 billion? I mean, that's just an astronomical amount. That's waste, fraud, and abuse. So these are things like improper payments, like Medicaid payments that go out for services that were never rendered, or to an entity that doesn't exist or is fictitious. That's $162 billion out of that. So I think if you start there, you really can start to wean this stuff off. A lot of the growth in government spending is certainly entitlement spending, but a lot of it's to the discretionary stuff that we do. So if you can rein all that in, I think you've got the secret sauce to really hone it in. But tackling waste, fraud, and abuse, look, it sounds like a cheap moniker, but that's $500 billion. I mean, that's a big start in deficit spending.
Would you be willing to, A, take a look at DOD cuts, and B, take a look at cuts to benefits of those entitlement programs?
Look, not cuts to benefits, but I think the misnomer here about cuts to benefits is that that people are going to lose services. You can make things leaner and more efficient very easily. And if you eliminate things like improper payments, most of that is through entitlement spending. That's $162 billion, right? So I think you can tackle a lot with that. But discretionary spending, I think everything is on the not the chopping block, but everything should be under review. Because as at least the Doge Commission highlighted, there are these systemic problems in government spending. Some simple things, like when a check goes out of the Treasury, there's not even a moniker on what it's for. Is it payroll? Is it for something? Is it reimbursement? Is it something else? We don't know. And so that's a kind of an alarming thing to think about.
So you take a look at every agency.
I think you do, yeah. I think
including the Pentagon too.
Yeah, look, I think it doesn't mean that you axe them, but is there waste in every government agency? 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think you're naive to think that it doesn't exist in some, but exists in others.
Is it time to bring this war to an end, do you think, with Iran?
So I think the pressure is real, right? Just being out in South Carolina, they feel the pressure from gas prices.
Yeah.
But I do not want boots on the ground. I think that is a mistake. But I do think that you need to defang the Iranians. What does that mean? Well, look, I think, so my brother served in Iraq, did 2 tours of the Marine Corps, and you're not going to change the hearts and minds of people that have hated you for 4 decades, okay? And we are naive to think that we would do that. Mm-hmm. So my strategy is, and probably Joe's, I'm not speaking for him, but defang the Iranians, make sure that you can hate us from your sandbox, but you don't have any toys to target our commerce, our troops, our citizens, the West generally. I think if they don't have the tools at their toolbox to throw things at us, then we're a lot safer. So I feel like we're close. I think the president's the right person to lead on this, and he's done a pretty good job of confronting, quite frankly, a challenge that has been building for decades.
So in your mind, you'd want to go further than just getting clarity on the Strait, and in fact, really ensure that all of their offensive capabilities have been eliminated before you end the war.
Well, I think that's part of the certainly the president's prerogative too, is that the commerce of the Strait of Hormuz is important. But if they're just going to change the terms of the agreement because they woke up in a bad mood one day, as they've shown that they will do, look, we are not dealing with a rational actor.
Yes.
And so I think you have to confront that reality is that, yeah, we can have an agreement on paper, but what's it worth? Do you trust the Iranians to honor the agreement?
Right.
No.
Right. So not necessarily regime change, but at least some assurances that they don't have the capabilities anymore to affect us.
Yeah, look, I think that affects the commerce, obviously. I mean, the idea that the Strait of Hormuz, which has been an internationally recognized body of water and supported by the UN for years, that we would somehow cede that now to the Iranians, I think is a folly. And the Iranians even asking for that is just, quite frankly, asinine.
But you mentioned the pressure, you mentioned being on the campaign trail and hearing from folks in South Carolina about the price of gas. Let me ask you about that. What can you do to address those short-term challenges on the cost of goods, whether it's gas or groceries or anything else?
So the big thing, and I know I'm speaking to a very friendly audience here, right? Permitting reform is boring in every other circumstance except this crew right here. Look, if you can build things faster, quicker, we, for example, in the United States on energy, we don't build nuclear power. Well, why is that? Well, one, it's costly. But why is it so costly? Government regulations, right? The duplicitous nature of government regulations. They're onerous. This is a bipartisan thing, by the way. Oil and natural gas, the same thing. Like we are more concerned about the spotted salamander and the polka-dotted mollusk than we are about the affordability of our own citizens. We see this around the country. Some of the things that some of these blue states are doing to drive out. I mean, Colorado, for example, was built on oil and natural gas. They drive on asphalt that is made in Colorado. Their cars are powered by gas that is produced in Colorado. And this cult-like following of these greenies on pushing them out. I mean, there's so many jobs and livelihoods that are affected by this. Permitting reform is a big, big way. If you do it better, and it also helps the national debt. If you can grow your way out, this is a big thing. And so to everybody else in the world, when you say permitting reform, you've lost them. But this crowd, they're kind of awake.
That's like red meat for this crowd. Yeah, exactly.
Listen, you guys are all going to have a Red Bull later at the bar, maybe with some vodka. So we'll keep it up. We'll keep it up.
More immediately, though, as in like next month when you guys go back to Washington for the final sprint before the election, would you be willing to suspend the federal gas tax, for example?
Yes, I've called for that. I think that's a prudent thing to do. Temporary relief, I think we should do it. Is it disruptive to government operations? Sure. But so is the price of gas for our citizens, so we should do that.
Has the price of gas reached the crisis level, you think, for people?
Well, it's coming down. So it was at $4 a gallon, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Now it's at like $3.48, I saw on the way up here. So it's coming back down. People want it to be obviously lower. They want it back down to about $2.25, or even they want it free, quite frankly. But I mean, don't y'all want free gas, right? Venezuela tried that; it didn't work out too well. But yeah, so people feel the pinch. And look, I just know how it feels to like go, I got to fill up my tank.
Yes.
But I also have rent that's due. I also have an electric bill that's expensive because it's August. And so people look at that. Gas prices are the easiest thing to see, and they're starting to come down. Hope that trajectory continues.
You were on the campaign trail so much recently. Talk about the mood of voters right now. Are they kind of ornery? Are they frustrated? Are they just eager for you folks to get stuff done? Or how would you describe it?
Two things. One, they don't like socialism, so that's encouraging, right? We don't like socialists.
In South Carolina, that's for sure.
That's true. In most places. Socialism polls below the Democrat Party, but not by much. I think Democrats are at 30% approval rating nationwide, and socialists are like 12. So maybe Congress is more popular, Joe, than socialists.
Well, you're all beating the media, so that's good.
So I think
we're even further south.
At their core, what I hear from conservatives is, yes, we like people to be conservatives, but we also want something done.
Yes.
It's not enough to sit up there and go, push a button, yes or no, and go, I've moved the world, I'm so important. No, like they want to see you in the arena. They want to see you fighting. That doesn't mean you like go challenge people to a duel or beat them with a billy club, but they want to see that you're actually moving legislation. Like that's my congressman. He got that done for South Carolina, or he got that done for this one issue. They want us. They're tired of people who get up to Washington. I'm looking at the Capitol right here, and just sit around and push a button and become part of the furniture. Like they want people in the arena.
What did you learn from the Senate race?
Look, we have a great people. I was very impressed with 2.5 weeks. We were like, he can't raise money in 2.5 weeks, and he can't be competitive. And that narrative changed very quickly. If you've ever been on the campaign trail with me, like we were 20 hours a week or 20 hours a day. 30 events in about 10 days. But I think what I learned about is people have an optimism right now. And they're hungry for real leaders. They want something. They don't have to be the best speaker. They don't have to be the flashiest. But they want deliverables. They really want, they're tired of Republicans getting elected and getting up there and shooting at their own side. They want people to get something done. They want a team approach. And they look at the Democrats and they say, hey, look, they can stick together. I mean, if y'all have ever seen the movie 300, like, I'm not comparing the Democrats to the Spartans, okay? But like the formations that they had in there where they never broke ranks, the Democrats would not be a Spartan by any stretch of the means. But they never broke ranks. Like, they stayed together as a unit. And what people really want, what I learned the most is people want you to stick together, part of the team. You can disagree, but you got to keep things moving because they want something done.
Yeah. You mentioned deliverables. You're likely coming back in January. What are the deliverables that you want to bring home? So if we're sitting here next summer, you can point to X, Y, and Z.
I think it's really important as we talk about the economic realities that people face that we focus on that, right? Permitting reform, again, is boring. It's boring. It's terribly boring. But is that going to impact people's bottom lines when you can generate more electricity? Absolutely. Is oil and natural gas is creating a better pipeline for that advantageous to the American people? Absolutely. I think focusing on that, and then some of the things that we do in this state, trade's very important, agriculture is critically important, making sure that you're taking care of back home. They want you to be engaged on the national issues, but taking care of back home. You know, the small town in, I say, Cheraw, South Carolina, that might have a water issue. Like, go help that. That's what you're supposed to do.
Talk about trade for a minute. And obviously, this president is eager to use tariffs as kind of a cudgel, but what's your preference on tariffs or lack thereof? Do you want to see us move to more of a free trade type environment across the board?
Look, I think free trade is a default, but I think we're naive to think that free trade, that other people are going to do this, right? So
Other countries,
right? Other countries do this. If you take a grain of rice that's grown in the United States and we send that to India, India has a 700% markup on that grain of rice. If India sends a grain of rice to the United States, it's 4%. Well, how the hell is that fair? That's not fair at all. So I think for protecting the American worker, for making sure that you prove a political point, tariffs can be a very useful tool. And the president has used them at different times to either achieve a political purpose or to achieve an economic outcome for the American worker.
NAFTA, or I guess now the USMCA, as President Trump refashioned it, you think that's been a net positive or negative for South Carolina and America?
Well, I think it's been a net positive, right? If you look at, say, our automobile manufacturing, I think it could be stronger, right? I think, like you go get a new car or a used car every couple of years, it might be time for a little upgrade on the USMCA. So it's been beneficial to our port. It's been beneficial to strengthening supply chains, at least in this hemisphere. Some of our industries, tires, planes, automobiles, agriculture, these things have all been very, very good. But I do think there are some pitfalls in it that we need to address and make sure that, for instance, China ships things into Mexico, has tacit manufacturing in Mexico, but sales under the USMCA. I think we got to address that, right? Like, that puts the American worker and really the workers of the entire USMCA at risk because of a cheap Chinese product that's barely manufactured in Mexico before it hits our markets.
You're not in a primary or a runoff right now, so maybe you'll be at liberty to answer this question with some candor, and that's about immigration. An issue Senator Graham was involved in for years. And obviously it's a political hot potato because, folks start throwing around the A word for amnesty, and most Republicans get nervous for obvious reasons politically. But is there a potential solution? Is there a compromise on immigration that this president could forge, do you think, in his final 2 years as kind of the Nixon goes to China? If anybody could do it, it'd be this president who's unimpeachable on the border, has credentials on being a border hawk, but potentially could do something on the broader system. Or am I being totally unrealistic?
Well, maybe, but I think we have to also step back and compare ourselves to other countries, right? For instance, Canada, of all places, has a more conservative immigration policy than the United States. And look, we're a very generous and benevolent nation. We've welcomed people of all walks of life and all faiths for a very long time, and that's part of our fabric. But we also take people on that absorb social services. There's a cost to that. And so to the extent that the president wants to do that, and I think he's probably the one guy that probably could, I think you got to address some of these pitfalls in it. I mean, we have some real challenges. One of those, I mean, if you look at what Joe Biden did, have you all ever heard the term parole, and not in a jail sense? Parole is a category in immigration law that you don't fit it neatly into a little box, and so the Homeland Security Secretary can say, you, as an individual, on what the law describes on a case-by-case basis, can grant them access to the United States. Joe Biden said, well, we're going to use parole and bring in 250,000 Haitians this month. We're going to bring in 250,000 Nicaraguans. I think you got to close some of these loopholes too. But if there's a person to deal with immigration just holistically, period, it's going to be this president.
Yeah, he could potentially do something. And speaking of second-term domestic legacies, that obviously would be something significant. AI, data centers. An unalloyed good that the states need, and we're going to win the 21st century battle against China, or no, this has gone too far, and people shouldn't be on the hook for subsidizing the tech billionaires' technology.
So you got two extremes, right? One is like subsidize every AI data center.
Yeah, forgive me, I'm being
imaginable.
yeah.
And then the other side, community, like they speak in Star Trek language, right? They're like beep boop bop boop bop. And people just like look at them like they're crazy and like, what are you storing? Well, it's okay, don't worry about it.
Right.
Well, how much power is this going to take? Well, don't worry about it. They're the worst salesmen ever. So look, I think it's got to be right for a community. I think the framework that the White House came out with on data centers is really important, because it's pro-data center, but it's also pro-community. If it's right for your community, you can have it. As long as you're not raising the rates on the ratepayers, that's critical. As long as you're not sucking up services or you're having the state come in and pay for the upgrades to the infrastructure, that's critical. And the White House has gotten it started with the big 8 AI tech firms, right? Google, Meta, places like that. But now it's 200 entities across the United States, everything from utilities to states. Our own governor, Henry McMaster, signed it. I mean, it's kind of a ratepayer protection pledge.
Right.
And that is a good framework that is both practical and protects the ratepayer.
I'll ask you about politics, because you're in a district where there are so many Republicans, and there's more moving there every day.
Oh, yeah.
Retiring to South Carolina and to the coast. You're going to be inundated with visits here in the next year or two from Republicans and Democrats alike who want to be president. Tell me your view of what's the future of your party, and do you support J.D. Vance to be the nominee, or you want to wait for a bit and see a primary?
Well, you know, I haven't talked to any of them about that. I don't even know who's running. We're speculating that it'd be J.D. and Rubio and some others. But look, we're a first in the South primary. I mean, this is a very critical state to anybody who wants to run. I think it's important that people spend time here, that they get to know people, that they're at a festival, that they're at a Waffle House, that they just kind of are ingrained in our state. And I think it's really pivotal that, like, where are we in this moment, and what are the deliverables that we can expect?
What do you want to hear most from these candidates?
Look, I think a focus on the middle class is critical, right? I just think that this country has survived 250 years because we have appreciated our faith, we have appreciated free enterprise. So how do you defend against kind of a very extreme wing of the Democrat Party that seems to be metastasizing? But then how do you enhance for the next 250? What does that look like in a Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, who knows, Glenn Youngkin, like just name a politician. How are we going to do that and move the needle for the next 250? And so I think it's critical that, and how are we going to work for families, right? How are families going to be able to put food on the table? What opportunities can we ensure for the next generation? I just refuse to believe, I'm 41, I got a 9-year-old son, and I refuse to believe that this is the first generation that will say to the country, sorry guys, we screwed up.
Yeah.
We're going to, we had our best days yesterday, but not tomorrow, and it was our opportunity to fix that. I think we've got an opportunity now to make sure that we're not the first generation that does that.
You've mentioned this a couple of times. I think folks in this room would be eager to hear your view on this, which is, obviously there's a temptation, even an embrace in some quarters of socialism. it's especially true with folks who are your age or younger, 20s, 30s, early 40s. How do you sell capitalism? How do you make folks believers in the free market and free enterprise when, a lot of them are struggling to pay the rent? They can't afford to put a down payment down even though they're 30 or 35. They've been married for 10 years, and that's a thing in the future. What's the gospel of capitalism? How do you get folks to believe it when they're in a moment now where there's some real frustrations about the market?
Well, I think you teach history, right? I mean, history is the start of this. But look, we did not become the most prosperous, successful, powerful, you could build anything out of your garage type of country because we embraced a socialist model. I think it's important to recognize what made us so great to begin with, which is the embracing of free enterprise, that through markets, that these things sort themselves out and that you have an opportunity. I think history is very important. And socialism might sound great on paper, right? But it never works in practice anywhere that it's been used. I think history is the guide here on why socialism is not a successful model. And if we do that, the pressures that people feel is, what is the next step? We're going to take the means of production. We're going to take away people's liberties. We're going to replace God with government. These are all kind of hallmarks of a socialist society. We can't do that. And this was a challenge, I think, from a young voter that I talked to recently. He's like, what's our greatest challenge? I said, to confront that and educate your peers that this is not a model that works. It sounds good. It's a sugar high, maybe, that like things will just be better because they magically appear in your lap. But nothing is guaranteed in this life. The only thing that you've got is your name and hard work and your faith. And if you can do those, you can thrive. You too can thrive in this country as people have done for generations.
How confident are you that your party still believes in the gospel of free enterprise, of free markets, of keeping the government hand away from the market? Is that something that you think is still very much the main current of your party?
I think so. I do think so. I think at our core we believe that markets work, that free enterprise works. Obviously, there's a role for government. The question is not whether there's a role for government, but how much, right, Joe?
Right.
And so people in our party naturally believe that because it's worked. It's worked so successfully. Europe's problem right now, if you go to Europe, and I know I'm talking too much, but you're going to get your drinks soon, okay? Europe's problem is that they regulate first and ask questions later. And why is it that investment is drying up and leaving Europe and going to other places? It's because they take the approach, we're going to regulate first without knowing what we're doing, and then we'll maybe adjust. And it just doesn't work.
Last question. We'll let folks go to the bar after this, but tell me your sense from talking to so many voters about this midterm, and are you concerned that the House and Senate are both in jeopardy for your party?
Well, history is not on our side, right? History says that the party in power loses. But I've actually campaigned in some of these districts with some of these candidates. We've got great candidates. Maine's 2nd Congressional District, former Governor LePage. Like, that's a real shot that we could pick up that seat. North Carolina 1, which is Lori Buckout, and that's in the northeast corner, kind of the northeastern part of Outer Banks, hugging Virginia. That's a pickup opportunity. And so if you look at national trends, I just don't believe the hype, by the way, that the media is trying to sell, that like the Republicans are so down in the dump. I think redistricting, so no offense, my friend. But
it took all night, by the way, for someone to finally attack the media.
Is it a challenge?
The final 30 seconds.
Is it a challenge? Yeah, it is a challenge.
Yeah,
but we've got a decent record to run on. The big, beautiful bill and the economic climate that created and helped deliver. We secured the border. These are things that we promised the voters and we delivered on. And the other side is just orange man bad, right? Orange man bad, orange man bad. I'm going to be a DSA. Cuckoo clock. It doesn't. You've got to sell a message, and you got to sell an idea. And Democrats are just orange man.
And you got to remind them of what you did for them, right?
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a little bit more bullish than the national trends would indicate.
Russell Fry, thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
man. Good job. All right, and with that.